Hey everyone, it's Tuesday, March 11th, 2025. It's the 70th day of the year, and we've got some big time updates for you on our upcoming coast to coast major storm. This one looks like it's going to be the strongest storm of March, maybe even the strongest of the year so far. So we've got a lot to cover. Satellite overview. Before we dive into the forecast, take a look at these swirling systems on satellite. We've got one off the west coast and another off the east coast, both showing a really cool presentation. This little system right here was actually responsible for producing a tornado yesterday in Florida, right around Orlando. It caused EF2 damage, a pretty intense tornado, and it happened while I was filming this video. The next system over here also has the potential to produce tornadoes of its own, so let's talk about that right now. Synoptic pattern. Let's start off by discussing the synoptic pattern because weather starts at the top and we really don't know what's going to happen at the surface until we get closer. So let's work from the top down. This is the spinning system we just looked at on satellite. It's going to move into the southwestern United States, bringing gusty winds to higher elevations and some moisture into Mexico. But by the time it gets to Texas, most of that moisture will have dried out. Its main impact once it reaches the central U.S. will be to sweep the Gulf of Mexico of the rising dew points we're seeing right now. One of the big saving graces we have at the moment is this storm system. If this storm didn't come through, the Gulf would just sit there baking in the sun. Instability would build, and when the next big system moved through, it would have a lot more moisture and instability to work with, leading to a bigger tornado outbreak. This system is going to produce its own severe weather in Oklahoma and Texas on Wednesday evening. More on that in a second. But for the most part, it's going to help clear out some of that unstable air from the Gulf ahead of the next major storm. What to expect this week? As we move into Thursday, you can see it very clearly. We've got a huge trough over the west, leading to a pretty large ridge over the central U.S. This will allow very warm air to build up quickly out ahead of the storm. Even though this cleaner storm will sweep through, it's still going to get very moist and unstable, especially farther south. As this trough moves over the Rockies, it'll bring in much cooler air aloft, which will clash with that warm air and lead to the development of a major storm system. This storm will also bring heavy rain and significant snow totals to the higher elevations of the west coast. It will generate strong wind gusts in the higher elevations of the southern Rockies. A potential record-breaking storm, the truly dangerous part of the storm will develop as it crosses the Rockies and starts to deepen over the plains. It could become a record-breaking low-pressure system, at least in the top 10 mid-latitude cyclones for March. Look at this. Over 100 empath winds on the southeast side of that jet streak. This is a negatively tilted storm with all the elements coming together for very efficient moisture transport from the Gulf and cold air from Canada. That's a recipe for a huge storm. This will trigger destructive multi-day severe weather from the deep south through the Ohio Valley and possibly even into the East Coast. It's also expected to cause a serious wildfire threat in Texas and Oklahoma and a blizzard in the northern plains up into Manitoba. Everything is going to happen pretty much at once during this classic springtime storm. Timeline of the storm. Friday, the low pressure center will likely be at its deepest. Saturday, the overall trough will become larger and more robust, descending farther south while staying negatively tilted. This will continue pulling Gulf moisture northward into Canada, sustaining the severe weather threat into Saturday and Sunday. Saturday could end up being the biggest day of the event. Sunday, the severe weather threat will shift toward the East Coast. First round of severe weather. Wednesday. Let's focus on the short term first. That smaller system moving through on Wednesday evening will generate severe weather in southeast Oklahoma, northeast Texas, and western portions of Arkansas. This mostly looks like a hail threat, but around 5 p.m., you'll see supercells popping up around Dallas and down toward Austin. These will be mostly elevated, producing downpours and hail.
The tornado threat is pretty low, but we can't rule it out, especially as the storms move into extreme southeastern Oklahoma, where surface-based storms could produce tornadoes. For the most part, this is just an appetizer round for the upcoming major multi-day severe weather outbreak. Major outbreak starts Friday. The real action starts on Friday, March 14th. There's already a day 4 enhanced risk of severe weather from Peoria, Illinois, down past St. Louis into western Kentucky, past Memphis, and all the way into the mid-Mississippi River Valley near the Arkansas, Mississippi, and Louisiana border. Stay tuned. We'll keep you updated as this situation develops. But watch what happens as we move into Saturday. This will happen early in the day. By around 2 p.m., we could have 50, 60 mph winds just a couple thousand feet above the surface. That could quickly increase to hurricane-forced winds above our heads. And it will align perfectly with the available moisture. Everything is coming together for Saturday to be a potential tornado outbreak, potential for a high-end event. We're still about 5 days out, so things could change. But if the models continue to show this level of setup, this is going to be a high-end event capable of producing several tornadoes. And even outside of the tornado threat, we're looking at straight line or damaging winds, very large hail, classic big-time spring severe weather outbreak. Sunday's threat moves east. As the system moves east on Sunday, the tornado-producing wind shear might once again become displaced from the best moisture. However, we're still going to have a very strong squall line capable of producing damaging winds, hail, and tornadoes. The day 6 slight risk for Sunday, March 16, stretches from eastern Pennsylvania and southern New Jersey all the way down to the Florida Panhandle. This is the farthest out part of the forecast, so we don't have a lot of specific details yet, but this setup has the potential to create a high impact event. Not just severe weather, snow too. It's not just severe weather. This system is also going to produce snow. Most of the snow will be confined to the Cascades and the Intermountain West. In fact, a few areas in the higher elevations of the Rockies could see significant snow totals, with strong wind gusts making for dangerous conditions. Expanding severe weather threat, the severe weather risk stretches from Minneapolis all the way down to the Gulf Coast. We talked about this a little yesterday. The major limiting factor for this storm on Friday is going to be the lack of moisture. Our sweeper storm, that smaller, cleaner system, is going to knock down some of the dew points on Wednesday and Thursday. So when Friday comes around and the big cold front and dry line come into play, we'll have a very strong burst of wind coming over the Rockies, potentially at hurricane force, sweeping across Texas, Kansas, and Oklahoma, forcing itself onto these very warm temperatures out ahead of it. However, the dew points won't be quite as high as they could be under other circumstances. For example, one storm this reminds me of synoptically is March 31, 2023, one of the biggest tornado outbreaks in U.S. history. This storm looks very similar, but the moisture isn't nearly as robust this time. For the 2023 outbreak, we had 60, 65 DGF dew points all the way up into Iowa. For this storm, dew points will barely make it into the northern side of Arkansas. That could be our saving grace, but there may still be just enough moisture to generate storms. And there's going to be enough wind shear in the northern mode to produce tornadoes if storms can get going. Strongest threat in the south, the farther south we go, the more confident I am that we'll see a significant severe weather event in the form of tornadoes, large hail, and damaging wind. Definitely, it looks like the vast majority of this activity will take place overnight. Here we are at 1 a.m. That's when storms will likely be near Memphis on Friday night into Saturday morning. Saturday's threat, bigger and more dangerous. Speaking of Saturday, we've already got a day 5, 30% risk of significant severe weather from Chattanooga all the way down to Mobile. The entire state of Alabama is included, and yes, Atlanta, Georgia is in this zone as well. The slight risk stretches from Cleveland and Pittsburgh all the way down to Lake Charles. So this is a very expansive risk area. Take care, everyone. I'll be back tomorrow with a new update. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment. See ya.